Hello, Ed Worley, saying cheers from this country. Gordon Smith, good evening from Denmark, you fabulous lot. Luca Craig is on, Phil Ferris, TJ Leiter, and 5 others. Bunch of folks on here already. Welcome to what is going to be a very cool show, Julia. I'll turn your mic up, Sue. I mean, we've just done the tech check with Ian, and it's going to be fabulous.
It will be.
Ian standing politely by in Leamington, live via Skype from the UK. We'll be with him in a minute. We hope you enjoyed today's show and wish you all a very warm welcome. Let's get this one off the dock.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Alistair Murray is still in bed with COVID. You see that comment?
Yep.
Down in Melbourne. Turn your light on, Julia, now that the mics are hot. Welcome, everybody. Alistair, hope you're feeling better. Looking to you guys and the Fozy to cheer him up.
We'll work on it.
Paul Homchick's here in the Bay Area. Monica Diaz in Spain. Dan Jaspers over in the UK. And Dan is going to be with us on Friday, I'm pleased to say. There's David Robinson saying hi to T and J. Rob Sternstein in Boston. John Emmett's wishing Ian a happy birthday. Ian, is it your birthday, eh? We'll have to talk a little bit about that, maybe. Who else? Other comments. Greg Phillips is on the Gold Coast in Oz. Hello, Greg. He sends me cool things.
Yes, he does.
Does Ian have a wine cellar? Gordon Smith. We did. Andrew's wine cellar on, what day was it? On Friday. Julie Ahrens is in chilly Cleveland. Clark Chapin is in Michigan, in my home state. Welcome to all of you for what is our show number 517. Tom Eamon, of course, your host, representing proudly the Balboa Yacht Club, Julia, even though I'm a member of your club, Julia.
Yes.
Representing St. Francis Yacht Club. We're live here, again, as usual, from Studio B.
Yes.
At the Beach Street Yacht Club here in San Francisco's fantastic Marina District. And I am delighted to have all of you with us, including and especially Ian. We'll bring him in a moment. In the meantime, Julia, let's get into the pre-show, the pre-start, code flag Foxtrot, the attention signal. That's what we should display. I want to thank the aforementioned Andrew Pindar. Now, can you see on the right on the monitor over my right shoulder? I just did a screen grab with Andrew from the show on Friday, and you see this thing over here? Ian will know what that is, but that got a lot of attention because that was in Emmett's report, and that's Emmett's ferocious phallic figurine.
Of some import and ancient too.
Well, historical import. Okay, I had to put that up there, but I didn't do that on purpose. It showed up when I did the screen grab from the show on Friday. Thanks, Andrew Pindar. Thank you very much for joining us on Friday. It was a hoot to have you on as usual. Now, Julia, do you know what day it is today? Here's your first and only clue. Has nothing to do with Ian.
Well, I don't
Look
know.
at he's smiling at least. I'm not sure if he's amused or not. This is, believe it or not, World Taper Day. Mm-hmm. There is such a thing. And, I guess we probably all know what a taper is, but every year on the 20th, now it's the 26th here in the States and in Europe, but it's 27th down under. So sometimes we celebrate these days for down under, right?
Yeah.
Where it is in New Zealand and Oz, where so many of our viewers are situated. Every day on the 27th, World Taper Day aims to create a community around taper awareness and conservation. What does a taper look like? Well, it looks like a pig with a trunk. Some people refer to them as a boar crossed with an anteater.
That I believe.
However, tapirs aren't related to any of these animals. I didn't know that. Instead, they are related to horses and rhinos. Weighing over 600 pounds, tapirs are the largest land mammals in South America. This herbivore also lives in Central America and Southeast Asia. Happy World tapers. We have so many of these things to choose from, Julia, as you know, and I usually choose the most crotonic. Daniel Yount says he had no idea taper was what it was. Tapers need friends too, Gordon Smith. Denise Balzac is on. Hello, Denise. Nice to see you. Luca Craig saying good day from Auckland. Got COVID and uplifting to be watching your great show to lift the spirit, saying the same thing as Alistair Murray is saying. Well, I hope you all recover. As they say, everybody's going to get it. In fact, I saw a report today, Julia, that's fully most of the 2/3 of the U.S. population, the CDC, if you can believe them or trust them, says that 2/3 of the U.S. population has had it. And of course, the vice president now has had it.
Yes.
Has it. And she's quadruple vax. She's double vax, boosted once, and then boosted again on April 1st, and she's now got it.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris from right here from the Bay Area. Okay, enough of World Taper Day. Just a preview of Friday's show. We're going to have, again, we told you this one here's from a couple weeks ago that World Sailing was going to run, and we think this is really, really a cool idea and great news for the sport. They're going to run the under-25 Parasailing World Championship in the Netherlands this summer, late, I think, July, early August, right after the traditional Youth Worlds are being held in Den Haag, in The Hague. And RS Venture Connect, that yacht is going to be used. And on Friday, we thought we were going to do it today. We postponed it, and that's good because we're able to get Ian on. But on Friday, Dan Jaspers, who is a Brit living in Hamburg, another one of my hometowns, representing RS Sailing and others. We're not quite sure who the others are going to be, but we'll have a group to talk about what is a very cool event. And I'm teasing now a video that World Sailing just issued this morning.
Oh, good. That
we'll run on at the end of today's show, just as a reminder. Dan, that's Friday's show, but let's get right into today's show at the starting line. And before we go to Ian, we're going to go to our normal report from Master Mentor John Emmett, who is become a movie mogul, Master Mentor and movie mogul. Watch this.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. So finally did a little bit of filming on the water. So I hope you have a great show and really looking forward to hearing from Ian Williams. And I wonder if anyone can guess what I'm doing here. So I'm here outside in Weymouth Bay. We have the Nove area in the background, and we're actually doing a recon, a location recon for a movie called Storm School. So we're going to be looking at the 2012 Olympic Games with some intertwining stories, one of which is Li Jiaxu, or Lily, and we're looking at creating the medal race, and we're looking at where it will be filmed, and we're looking at having 10 body doubles. So this is something I didn't think I was ever going to be doing, and it's just an amazing project because it will be the first ever sailing movie. So it's wonderful to try and bring this to completion, and I'll try and tell you a little bit more as we go into shooting next month. Most of the top sailors are out in the air at the moment, so wishing them lots of luck. I'm obviously here in Weymouth, but we'll be shooting the first parts in about a month, so I'll bring some live action from that. Hope you have a great show and see you later.
We always get the damnedest comments from John's reports, which are very much appreciated.
Yes.
Joyce Chiarella out in Hawaii is saying, John looks like he's on a trampoline. First ever sailing movie. Yeah, John Sangmeister, who was one of the, I'm not sure stars is the right word, but he was in the movie Wind.
Yes.
And I think he met the first ever sailing, Olympic sailing movie following key sailors, coaches, and so on. I've seen the trailer. We'll run it in due course. And so the guy, see the guy here with John is the producer of the movie. And I think it's going to be very cool indeed. And John Emmett, yeah, confirming it's the first movie, as far as we know, about Olympic sailing, Olympic yacht racing. Stingray saying, yeah, I feel a bit seasick with those atmospheric clouds bouncing around. Okay. He's very popular. Exciting, Gordon Smith is saying. Steve Ross down in San Diego saying hi. And, well, we don't talk more about COVID. Let's get on with it. Thanks to John Emmett Sailing for that, as usual, segment. He gives us a report on every show. Maybe at some point we'll get one from Ian Williams from time to time about his match race and other exploits. Speaking of whom, right off the bat, we've got Ian here. As you know, welcome, Ian. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We appreciate very much, and I showed you this slide just to give you a little bit of warning, but we're going to open with this. Century Fox. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ian. Happy birthday to you. You don't even have to blow your own horn.
Very good singing.
Happy birthday, Ian. Now, one hears that there is a birthday present there somewhere near your computer. A special present. One hears.
I guess this must be it.
Oh, okay. And you're supposed to open it.
I'm supposed to open it. Okay, here we go.
It's great paper.
Wow. Look at that. You know what that is?
No.
Amarula.
Amarula cream. This is undoubtedly from my wife, who's South African. Amarula cream is from the marula tree. Which is a fruit from South Africa. It's an alcoholic fruit that the elephants drink and get drunk, which is why they put an elephant on the bottle. You can see that shiny thing. You know, funny enough, I had my first shot of Amarula from a South African touring rugby team. And it seems to be a big South African thing. And so when you've got a South African wife, when you run out of it in the house, you soon get some more.
Stingray is up in Seattle. He is a keen sailor, retired coder at a young age with Boeing. He grew up in South Africa, and he's saying South African Amarula is delicious. So he apparently had some as a youth. And Ted Ryman, I don't see Ted on here, is a regular from Cape Town. Okay, he's
it is delicious.
Delicious. So happy birthday, Ian.
Indeed.
We won't ask you how old you are. It's not polite, but I do know.
We'll get onto it, but I was the youngest on the boat. I kept telling my guys.
Well, let's get into the slides because you've just won your 5th Congressional Cup. Everyone's really pleased as punch. Bravo Zulu to you and to the rest of your Gladstone's Long Beach team. And let's just review some of these slides. If you want to talk over them, please do. This Ian Roman, as you know, took a bunch of these. I think Bronny Daniels down in SoCal took a few too. But it was the 57th Congressional Cup, the granddaddy of all these long-time, big-time match racing events, still in big, heavy, slow boats. We want to talk about the Cat 37s at some point too. But here I managed to find a video from the local charter cable TV network that I guess you talked to her as well, Ian. Let's watch this video from the start of, the start of the last day. Then she did edit it at the end.
After several days of these unseasonably high winds, this morning we had what they considered champagne sailing conditions here at Belmont Pier in Long Beach. The 57th annual Congressional Cup was one for the books, and it's an event the surrounding businesses look forward to every year. Check it out. It's a beautiful day for sailing in one of the most prestigious match race events in the world, says Taylor Canfield, skipper for the Stars and Stripes USA team. His crew is getting ready to help Taylor defend his Congressional Cup championship title in this final day of racing.
I sailed my first regatta when I was 7 years old in a little single-hand boat called an Optimus. And yeah, I remember I got 4th in my first event, and I was like, that's not enough.
Since then, he's spent decades fine-tuning his craft and is now one of the top-ranked match racing skippers in the world. But here at the Congressional Cup, he's met his match, racing among an all-star lineup as one of 10 teams from 5 different countries. This week, Taylor has beat out all but this one, long-standing rival Ian Williams, leading the Gladstones team all the way from the UK.
The competition is intense, especially in the match racing. There's nowhere to hide out there. If you make a mistake, you get punished for it and everybody sees, right?
It'll come down to each team's tactics and strategy as the two set off in a head-to-head race of identical Catalina 37 sailboats hosted by the Long Beach Yacht Club. Whoa! This year's Congressional Cup chair, Lisa Meyer, says more than 300 Yacht Club members volunteer to put this intense competition on each spring. But this one is extra special as all eyes are on Long Beach leading up to the 2028 Olympics.
Long Beach is the home of the sailing venue for LA 28 Olympics. So people are coming in from countries from this year on to practice in our waters.
And in the meantime, this Congressional Cup is the highest level of racing in the world, also happening right in LA's backyard. Thousands of spectators come to watch these races all week long, and the economic impact can be felt far beyond the pier. They're so busy at the Belmont Brewing Company nearby, General Manager Robbie Macias is behind the bar serving drinks. He says every year during the Congressional Cup, he sees at least a 20% bump in sales.
We are definitely seeing the numbers, and it's been great for us, and it's just great to see people's faces and see them out and about again.
A welcome boom after a difficult wave of closures due to COVID. And speaking of waves, the two finalists are just finishing their flight as the wind picks up to just under 20 knots. Ian Williams emerges from the battle victorious. For Taylor Canfield, just being able to race here at home is an automatic win too.
My dad's here to spectate the event, which is super cool. So it's exciting to just have all the friends and family that we've met here over the years.
And both he and Ian will be invited to compete in China, the final stop in this world match racing tour.
So a nice video. Bravo Zulu, Ian. Congratulations. It was a fantastic event. A lot of us were FOSI. We call our Friends of Sailing Illustrated our FOSI. And we are very proud of you, and congratulations to you and your entire crew. What was your gut reaction Sunday afternoon when it was all over and you, what was it, 3-1?
Yeah, 3-1. We lost the first race, but took the next three straight. So gut reaction was it's actually a lot of satisfaction to have come from actually so far back. We started the week, frankly, way off the pace, and we really learned so much so fast during the week. So after that first day, I don't think any of us thought we would make the final. And then even going into the final day, we were still behind Taylor really in most aspects. But I think it actually turned around during the final round, race 2, race 3. We started to really match him for speed and handling, and tactics were good all day actually.
Well, it's worth mentioning that you haven't sailed there in the Cat 37s and Congressional Cup in how long?
Well, 3 years. We won in 2019. Of course, 2020 was written off, and then the 21 regatta we unfortunately weren't able to make. So yeah, it's been 3 years, and I think that was pretty significant. The last Con Cup was actually only 6 months ago, and I wanted to give a big shout out to the organisers, because organising one of these things in 1 year is not easy, but doing it in 6 months, I think is exceptionally difficult. So great job by them. But what that did mean is a lot of the teams we were sailing against had only been there 6 months before at most. I think a lot have been training since then as well. So yeah, as I say, we certainly started the week quite a way behind, but I can't say enough about how hard my guys worked. I'm pretty sure we were quite by some margin the oldest team, but we took all our whole 5 hours on the practice day. Most of the teams only came out for a couple of hours and then went back in, but we were out there for the whole lot. We were almost always the first team with our sails up, in the morning, just taking any opportunity we could to get more sailing in the boats.
Let's go back to this photo, which is your team on the left, sailing away to the left side of the frame, and you've got, I guess, Taylor coming at us. Taylor and his team, is that right? Yeah, coming at us on the right. So who's your tactician? Are you calling the shots? And were you aware of what was going on in the other boat? Did you talk afterwards? Because there was a lot of back and forth and disagreement in between Taylor and his team about which way to go when.
No, we don't hear any of the audio. I know that comes across on the live feed and goes to the pier, but we certainly can't hear any of that during the racing. My tactician's Richard Sydenham. That's him standing up, looking back. he played an absolute blinder. So certainly on this occasion, I listened to him every time, and you know, we've gone back a long way. We figured out. I sailed with Richard nearly 30 years ago in the Coke Cup in New Zealand for sailing for Britain, and we actually sailed against Andrew Escort, who was my main sheet trimmer. Richard sailed against John Gunderson, our jib and spinnaker trimmer, the year before I went. So yeah, we all go back a long way together.
Yeah, John Emmett, of course, who is not only our regular here on the show, he says, I remember Rich from Laser days. A couple of questions already. Maybe we can go to some questions here. Stingray is asking, what is the biggest speed difference maker on the Cat 37s?
I think so much is about knowing when you're actually up to speed. We don't have any instruments, so we don't have any log that tells us when we're at VMG speed, and the boats take a long time to build. So you press out of the tacks pretty hard, and you've got to hold it down for what seems like an eternity until you're up to speed. Of course, you don't want to hold it down too long because you're just giving away distance. So I think that's one of the big challenges, is knowing how hard to press and for how long. And then downwind, I felt that what we did well was we really got into the rhythm in the jibes of the way the boat rolls. If you can do that, you can use a lot less rudder. The rudders are horrible looking things that you don't want to use them. It literally is a brake. So the less you can use the rudder, the better. And I think that was a big part of the technique downwind.
Talk about the tour for a minute. They said at the end of that video that you and Taylor will get invites to China to the final event. I talked this morning with James Pleasance, as you know, or maybe you don't know, your wife knows. Well, because of the birthday present. We had to do a little arranging for this birthday present.
Yeah, okay.
But the tour, we know that Bermuda's been canceled. We've announced that here, but James is doing an amazing job holding the tour together. And hopefully that China event, COVID notwithstanding, is still going to happen. Any latest news on that?
Yeah, well, it's on the schedule. We're hoping to make it there. Of course, it's going to be COVID dependent. They still have a zero COVID policy, as far as I'm aware, and when you have that policy, it's difficult to host international events, right? Of course, they did the Olympics, but that was a huge affair, obviously, with the quarantine as well. My guess is if they're still on zero COVID when it comes to December, it's going to be very difficult. But if between now and then they decide that's not their way forward, then we've got a chance of going.
Yeah, it's really hard to believe that they still are trying to do COVID zero. Even New Zealand and Australia have given that up, as you all know. Chris actually asking, why haven't the AC team snatched up this amazing fellow? Ian.
Well, you ran an AC team, didn't you, Tom?
A couple.
You know better than me.
No, if you were asked, let me put it another way. If you were asked, would you go into the Cup? Would you you got a day job. You're a lawyer, right? You've got a serious job. You got a couple of young kids. Would you, if asked, would you go into the Cup?
I don't practice law anymore, and actually I gave up law because I wanted to try and do the America's Cup, and that was back in 2005 when they were sailing version 5 IACC boats, and I felt that I had some of the skills to offer to that. Now, if I got asked, I would love to still to contribute to an America's Cup team or a Sail GP team. I don't think it would be sailing anymore. Unfortunately, I think I'm aged out essentially on that with the types of boats that they're there now. But I actually do think I could offer quite a lot on a coaching or on a management side of things. Ultimately, I think that's where my biggest skills are. That's where I've been successful in match racing. Has been more about organising the team and getting the team working together more than necessarily my own helming skills.
I told you it's why we really wanted you to come on live. You offered to come on by tape and then kindly agreed to come live because we have so many questions. and Fritz Mueller's pointing out, replying to Chris, actually, he's Ian, very deserving, but there aren't much tactics involved in a drag race, criticizing the current America's Cup to a degree. Denise Balzac is saying Gundy with triple, quadruple exclamation points. Chris, actually, Ian beat Taylor in the rounds robin. Was that the toughest match, or were the finals more challenging?
Well, I think certainly the finals is always a completely different experience in match racing. The round robins, Peter Gilmore used to call them the practice round, and perhaps that was a bit not disrespectful to the other teams, but you've still got to get through. I think at that point we were both on course to make the semi-finals, so there was not a huge edge to that match. But once you're in the final, they all count, and you got to make every single one count. So for sure, the finals was the hardest. I mentioned 3 of my crew. I didn't get the others in, so I better mention them now in case it doesn't come up. But Matt Cornwell on the bow and Stevie Mitchell in the pit as well. So great job by those guys as well.
How many times have you sailed with that team in a match racing event, or in particular in Con Cup?
No, we haven't done that before. I've sailed with all of them individually before. Most of them, Gundy I've never match raced with before, but the other guys have all sailed on my match racing team over the last, whatever it is, 25 years. But actually we hadn't sailed as a team. Some of them hadn't met each other before the regatta. So it was a big, big project really, of getting people to work together, to getting to know each other, and work out how they can work together. It was actually quite interesting having teams within teams. Andy and John grew up together. They're pretty much best mates from New Zealand, and having them as a trimming team, who they've worked together quite a lot before, and that was really good. Again, having the Brits in the bow team, with Richard helping out cat flap on the bow for the drops and Steve in the pit, because we all know each other from years back as well, and so that was a pretty effective way of splitting things up.
Hey, go left to right on this picture for us, which this is obviously right after you won on Sunday.
John Gunderson, our trimmer, on the far left. Lisa Meyer, the event chair. Matt Cornwell, cat flap on the bow, wearing all the gear, obviously. Big Steve Mitchell, who was my housemate when I was at law school, who I was going to do a soling campaign with for 2004 until that got dropped, and he ended up going to the Olympics with Ian Percy in the Star. Then Andy Escort on the main trim, Richard Sydenham on tactics, and me in the corner.
Well, pretty good mates, pretty good crew, obviously. But again, to come back and do what you did, having taken, 3 years off from Con Cup, and Taylor being there and being practiced up, and you still beat him pretty handily in the finals, if I do say so myself. It was impressive, and we were all suitably impressed. Maybe I'll go to another slide here. This is, as you said, it's a fantastic venue. It's going to be the venue for the 2028 Olympics. As we've been saying on this show, we've had Sangmeister on the show any number of times, John, who's one of the spark plugs there, along, any number of others. But the end of the Belmont Pier, the Veterans Memorial Pier there, will, again, they're going to do some work on it, but it will be the yachting HQ for the 2028 Olympics, and in the waters immediately in front of it and further out, because you've got, 6 courses? We have to ask John Emmett to remind us. But a nice setup there. It's stadium racing, and you had a fair amount of breeze, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. We had a front come through on the Friday, on the semi-finals day. So we were top end of the breeze for the semi-finals, but actually all the way through the week we had a lot of sailing on jibs. I can hardly remember doing more than the odd race on jibs in previous years, but we actually did more sailing on jibs this year than we did on genoas. Of course, it was back to genoas for the final, and that's also an interesting challenge, because if you haven't sailed with them too much previously in the regatta, then there's still a lot to learn, and that was really noticeable. We were certainly improving all the way through the final in terms of the way we were using the genoas, particularly upwind speed. But also, I think a lot of the handling in the pre-start, the dial-ups, we drop our jib on some of the head-to-wind shoots. I noticed Taylor didn't do that, which was surprising to me. But a lot of that stuff, it just if you haven't had a lot of time with them, it's pretty challenging.
Yeah, we saw in the video, especially on Sunday, where you dropped jibs a couple times when you're going head to wind and trying to coast fast. Let's see, Gordon Smith, Julia, has asked a question here. Does Ian feel that match racing should be added to the Olympic slate? If so, what format, e.g., how are the crews chosen for each country? So, Ian, there's another topic that Julia and I have discussed with any number of our guests, including John Sangmeister, John Shadden, and others involved there. John's idea, as you know, which I fully support, is to, and I talked with James Pleasance about it this morning as well, is to take the Olympic teams that are there, so we don't have to add more personnel. I don't think the IOC will let us do that. And then for the teams that have some number of people, at least 5 sailors there, which are a lot of teams, but at least the big countries and probably some small countries as well, France, Germany, Spain, the UK, the US, New Zealand, Canada, I mean, we can go on, Italy, Australia down the line, and tell me what, 4 or 5 people off their Olympic rosters that have been sailing lasers and the other boats, put them on something, Cat 37s or some other boat, and have a match race, a match race tournament. And now that allows some number of sailors to win more than one medal. And I think for our sport, you know, you look at swimming, you look at track and field, athletics, as most of the rest of the world calls it. To be able to win more than one medal is what in gymnastics, that's the thing that gets a lot of publicity for our sport. So if you took an Olympic team and some number of those sailors from a given country went into another event, particularly a match racing event, I think it'd be fantastic. But what do you think?
Well, I couldn't agree more. I think we've had match racing in the Olympics in the past, and each time it's provided certainly excellent finals. I remember watching Jesper Bank against Jochen Schumann in 2000. It was about the only, one of the few sports finals that we saw on the UK TV that didn't include British sailors, or British athletes. So that got very wide coverage. I watched live the women's final, match racing final in Weymouth. Again, a fantastic final. And so it's been successful in the past. I think if you don't have to add more athletes, if you don't have to take away another medal, that obviously helps with some of the politics. And it seems, From where I'm sitting, it seems an obvious thing, but I'm sure there are challenges along the way.
Well, there's obviously some challenges, but David James, who's across the bay and as a part-time as a co-host here for Julia, sometimes filling in for her, and he says that would massively, where did that go? We got a whole bunch of comments at once. That would massively complicate training because match racing is a completely different discipline. Yes, but a lot of sailors do it anyway, David. And it would be.
It's not as hard as we make it look. I think it's really match racing's about going fast in the right direction. And last time I fleet raced, it was pretty much about the same thing.
Yeah, I think John makes a good point here, is that it probably does help the big countries in a lot of ways, including and especially in terms of a medal count, because some of the small countries wouldn't necessarily get to go into the event if they didn't have enough sailors at the Olympics. But by the same token, there are a lot of countries that do have enough sailors, especially if it doesn't have to be 10 sailors or five sailors. It could be 3 or 4. And as you said, Ian, we've talked on this show any number of times, and probably, every 20 shows we say the same thing. The best Olympic event any of us can remember was the women's match racing event, right, Julia?
In Weymouth. Yeah.
In Weymouth in 2012. So why do we ruin our sport, the television, the spectating, and so on? I was the American judge, the umpire, both in 92 when we started the match racing in the Solings, and also in 95 in Savannah. And those were fabulously good events, especially 92, right off the, what was the breakwater. We're behind where the athletes' villages and those 2 high rises in Barcelona. And it was terrific. Yeah. So why not?
Yeah.
No, I'm all for it for sure. I think it would be a fantastic showcase for our sport.
And of course it would be gender neutral. You'd be sure that you had 2 women and 2 men, or if you have a 4-person boat. And I just think it'd be fantastic and it'd be easy to do. Keeping up with the sport, albeit remotely, from just outside Boston, Mass. Susan Epstein. Hello, Susan. Denise Balzac. Take match race specialist as the backup sailor. Yeah, good point, Denise. You wouldn't necessarily have to have, but maybe you would. Maybe you'd make the rule, Denise, that you had to have people who were out competing for medals so that they had a chance to win a second medal. But Stingray is breaking some news. Rumor is that he has a one here, is that Dean Barker is headed to Alinghi to keep tuning them up in match racing foilers. Interesting. So speaking of match racing and foiling, what do you think of the America's Cup and the foilers? Ian, you don't have to answer, obviously, if you don't want. But what do you think of the latest iteration of the America's Cup and Sail GP, for that matter?
Well, of course, the boats are fantastic. It would obviously it's the age old question: do you go for a less expensive boat and have more teams, or a more spectacular boat and the result is less teams? And they've made their choice. They certainly provide spectacular racing. I was interested to see if they tried to make overtaking easier this time around. I haven't seen anything in the new rule that would, to my mind, make overtaking easier, but maybe there's stuff there that I haven't spotted. But that was, for me, quite an interesting thing, because I thought the boats, they did offer particularly interesting pre-starts, interesting racing, but Team New Zealand obviously had a large speed advantage and still found it hard to get past. So I think the next Cup for me will be really interesting to see if there is much passing, especially if it's a consistent breeze in Barcelona, and presumably potentially quite a light breeze as well.
Julia.
There have been several comments about team racing versus match racing. Do you have an opinion on that? Done on the same basis, but.
Yeah, I've done a team racing at university. I think it's a fantastic sport, but it's pretty complicated to explain to the public. It all happens very, very fast. And if you're talking about concerns about specialists for match racing, I think team racing is another level in terms of specialism. But having said that, it would make for a spectacular medal. I think you'd want to do it, on its own with specialist team racers, because as I say, it's for me, it's much even more specialist than match racing.
I think it'd be hard to pull off for all the reasons you've mentioned and more. Let's see what else we've got here. Does Ian have a view as to the challengers, the America's Cup challengers so far? Now we told you we wouldn't put you on the spot here, Ian, but
however.
Well, Rule Britannia is all I can say to that. Let's hope Ben wins.
Well, and a lot of people would hope that Ben wins and finally brings the Cup back after 170 whatever years it is. And I think that they're going to struggle. As I said on the show, the last show, I said I'm very impressed with the Alinghi already, and I think they're going to be tough. So we shall see. A couple other questions and comments here. Just a comment from our mutual friend and Andrew Pindar, who was on the show last Friday. Thanks again, Andrew, for coming on. We saluted you at the top of the show in case you didn't make it on. Ian shared his skills in the lead up to the Weymouth 2012 match racing by coaching the British women's team. Is that true? I mean, I'm sure it's true. Is that?
Yes, I did help them out. They had a full-time coach, but I helped them with some specialist stuff. And yeah, I was gutted for them. You probably don't remember, but they had essentially a photo finish in race 5 of the quarterfinals, and it really could have gone either way. So it was sad they didn't get further, but they were a credit to themselves, and they battled really hard, and if things had gone a different way, they absolutely could have ended up as a different result. Well,
you had a photo finish at Congressional Cup in the finals, and I was talking, I was texting at the time with our Fozy and mutual friend John Sangmeister, shown with you here right after you got back to the beat, back to the docks. And apparently you were tossed in twice. Is that true?
It is true. Once in the dock and once in the pool. I'm not sure if that's a new tradition, and if it's not, if it is, why I deserve to be thrown in twice. But there you go. That's what happened.
And Sangmeister and his Gladstones Long Beach, you were sailing for Gladstones. He came and helped sponsor you.
Yeah, he did. He stepped in and helped us get there, which was well, frankly, we wouldn't have been able to make it without his help. So thanks very much to him for that, and hopefully we repaid it with the result he was after.
Well, you did get him some good ink, that is for sure. I think we're just now hearing from Mark Michelson. Did Mark do those shirts? Sangmeister will tell me.
Yeah,
and apparently in record time, so that was nice. So.
Yes. Yeah, we flew. I flew with the shirts on the Sunday. Dropped them off at the yacht club on Monday, and we had them back on Tuesday. So excellent job there.
Oh, you had to bring the shirts from the UK. Oh, that's because you had Musto. And who are your other sponsors besides Sangmeister?
Yeah, that's right. Musto are one of my sponsors, and also Bolle sunglasses. But so I brought the Musto shirts with me, and we got them branded up, as you say, in record time. So fantastic job there.
Steve Gruber is saying the pool is just for a rinse after they put you in the bag. A lot of people. Ted Ryman is on from South Africa, from Cape Town. It's very important that Ben wins. What a swan song that would be. Yeah, I think that would be cool. Back here on Congressional Cup, then after you got dipped twice, tossed twice, this was the scene. It is such a fantastic club. I've been involved in the Congressional Cup since the no, not the beginning. The beginning was 65 or something like that, but from 79 or 80, I think, was my first Congressional Cup. And Ian, in those days, we had juries. We had traditional go inside into the protest room, and it'd go on all night long. And then after the Cup also had that big problem with umpiring, with jury work in the 87 Cup down in Frio, we said maybe it's time to try umpiring, which we did in Newport. In Congressional Cup, it was my turn to chair the traditional jury in 88. And I said, yeah, I'll do it, but let us try umpiring. Oh, we can't possibly do that. That's it. And some of the old regulars said, no. But then, to their credit, and Gary Jobson helped talk them into it, as did the late, great Chuck Kober, who was a past Commodore at LBYC, and his fantastic wife, Adra, who was a Commodore. She was the first female Commodore at ABYC, Alamitos Bay Yacht Club, right across the way. So we tried it in a practice event in February, and it went pretty well. And then we did it in the Congressional Cup in March or April. And all the sailors, and these are the days of Ed Baird and Peter Eisler and the Chris Law, their late, great Chris Law. And it just worked out well. And, of course, it had umpiring ever since. So how were the umpires? I was going to stick a slide in here of my longtime friend Russell Green. There was some, and I don't know who was calling your matches on the final day, but there were a couple of controversial calls there, weren't there, on Sunday?
Yeah, I thought the umpires did an excellent job all week. We had one race with 3 penalties. Taylor picked up 2. We got 1. I don't think they were tremendously controversial. We were disappointed with the one we got, but when you look back at it on the video, it's as normal. It's fair enough. And then Taylor got one. Taylor got one for a dial down for going below 90 degrees. I can see his point that it's actually very rare to get penalized for that, but I think the way it is, if you push it that hard and if the umpire's in exactly the right spot to be able to tell, then you're going to get called on it. I think in fairness, it's difficult for the umpires to be in the right spot and then therefore to call it. But if they are there and they see it, then that's the risk you take.
Yeah, I'll go out on a limb here a little bit, and I wondered if that was I refereed college hockey for a long, long time, and you had to fight yourself when you made a bad call. You had to fight yourself not to give a give back. And that call against you at the leeward gate was croutoning. That was, I don't know what they were calling. I don't know how they ever thought. I mean, you could have penalized Taylor for taking room to which he was probably, and I wasn't there, so I'm not sure, probably not entitled. That's the one you're talking about. I'm sure that you got penalized. And then you're going up the windward leg. Was it right after that when you had the dial down?
That's right. You know what? I thought exactly the same as you at the time. I mean, I thought we were zone clear, but honestly, the umpires, they have wing boats. They have a better view of the zone, I think, than we do generally, assuming they were well positioned. So I can't really say too much about that. But at the same time, I thought. You always got to be careful what you say on these situations, but at the time I thought that it also could have been greened even if he was inside of the zone. And I agree with you. If you've had one situation that could have been greened, could have been a penalty on one, I think again you get into the next situation. It probably does. Umpires are humans too, right? We're affected by the situation, and of course, they may be too.
Russell Green is sometimes on here, but normally only when we're talking about the America's Cup. Richard Slater is on, though, my longtime dear friend, and we did I don't know how many campaigns together, Cup campaigns, when he was the racing rules advisor, and I was what they called the Minister of External Affairs. And Richard is saying, "Sorry, Tom, we got it right." So he must have been umpiring those matches.
Richard Slater was umpiring the final, and if he says he got it right, I believe him.
And Denise Balzac, you know who Denise Balzac is, of course, right?
No.
She's the wife of a famously good match racer from the Caribbean. Does that help?
Yeah, Peter Homburg.
Yeah, okay, exactly.
He was wife Denise. I didn't know her surname.
Yeah, that's her family name. So Denise is saying, take the fifth. Well, yeah, let's keep back on the photos here, and then there's lots of other questions and comments, and we're only 48 minutes in, but we try not to keep you because it is your birthday night, and you're just back, and you're probably a little jet lag having flown from the West Coast. The rest of the field was actually darn strong. I mean, Pearson Potts, who's an American from Southern Yacht Club, and also sailing these days for New York Yacht Club, is a terrific sailor, and he was 10th. And it won't be the first or the last time that somebody gets the Arthur Knapp book who's a terrific sailor, including Jobson, I think, has won it. Turner, I think, has won it. Nick Agnott Johnson, Nick E.J. from New Zealand was 9th. David Hood, an American, was 8th. I'm sorry I'm not reading all the crew names, but at least I have them on here. Harry Price, who's a Fozy, has been on the show. And I see Josh was there doing commentary, and that was nice to hear Josh. They're a Governor's Cup alum that I know well, as is Emil Kiar, as is Jeppe Borsch in 7th, 6th, 5th, respectively. Yanni Berenson, who's been at the top of Congressional Cup now for years, struggled a bit, as did Chris Poole. But then it came down to Taylor, who's won it 5 times, and you, Ian, who had won it 4 times, and now you're tied at 5 apiece.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the book. Actually, the whole top 3 there have all won the book at some point. So yeah, it's no disgrace, and it's a starting point. Everybody has to start somewhere, right? And good luck to Pearson and all the other guys. As they get more experience and more time in the boat, I've no doubt they'll move on up. But yeah, absolutely. We've had a really long and tough rivalry with Taylor for sure.
Now, speaking of these skippers, these are all the skippers in a pre-regatta photo with Lisa, who's the regatta chair, Lisa Meyer, there on the left of the Con Cup, and then the Commodore, John Turgliato, to the right. Now, this is a tough a field, as we've seen, I think. What about these 2 young Danes, though? Far left, Jeppe Borsch, and then Emil Kiar kneeling in the gray with the reflective sunglasses. They did very well. They qualified. They matriculated, if you will, by winning and being first and second in the Ficker Cup. And were you impressed with them, or were they intimidated by the rest of you? What went on once they got to as we say, the varsity, when they had to go up against the varsity?
Yeah, I was impressed. They were fifth and sixth. I believe they train a lot together in Denmark. We actually sailed Jeppe Borch in the semi-finals of the World Championships in Bermuda in 2020. That was the last time I match raced actually in Bermuda. But he's got some history of doing well in the absolute top level regattas. And of course, having come through FICA, they were well practiced and certainly, I know I can't remember which one actually. I know one of the. Well, I think they both beat us in a race in the round robins. One in the first, one in the second, and they came out strong for sure.
Mm. Well, it was a strong field, and I'm looking forward to seeing Emil Kiar. I think he's still qualified. I think he is. I'm not 100% sure if he's aged out for Gov Cup or not. But how about this team, Team Stars and Stripes on the right, Taylor Canfield, your nemesis, and now you're tied on 5 Crimson Blazers apiece. What's your reaction to how they sailed?
Well, they sailed like they always do, fast, smooth, smart. You rarely get a bad regatta out of Taylor and his team, especially when he's got Matt Cassidy on the bow. Matt's won two World Championships with us on GAC Pindar, so I know him well. But they were very strong again. As I said, they done the regatta only 6 months ago. I believe they'd also done a bit of training between them. And no doubt, day one they were a long way ahead of us. We actually, I think it was the second day we started. We put a red flag penalty on him in the pre-start, and he just cruised past us and sailed off. So at that point we knew we had a lot of work to do. But fortunately we grounded out and we got better and improved. And like I say, I think he even started the final faster than us. But I felt like certainly by race 4, I feel like we probably had that speed edge back.
Now, Denise Balzac has asked an interesting question here. Should they invite Gavin and her husband, Peter Holmberg, to have a chance to catch up? And she's asking Steve Gruber and among others. But that would be cool to see Gavin Brady back and Peter Holmberg. Both have been multiple Con Cup winners, and to see them back, I wonder if they could arrange that. What would even be better is if they did some kind of a, like we do, and I think we're doing it this year. It's the Governor Cups. It's the clubs, Balboa Yacht Club's 100th year. So we're going to do some kind of an alum regatta, which we did 4 or 5 years ago on the 50th Gov Cup. It'd really be cool if they could somehow get an alumni regatta and get Gavin and Peter and a few others that have won it back to race you and Taylor and so on, and those young kids from Denmark. Be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I can't remember quite what they did for the 50th. I think they did open it up more to past winners. But I agree. I think Rod Davis as well is
exactly.
I definitely thought when I got to 4 in 2019, I think there were 4 or 5 of us on 4 wins at that point. I guess COVID put pay to getting everybody together for the race to 5. But by all means, it'd be great to see some of those guys back.
One other thing that was cool about Taylor's team, and you can see here on this shot, this is this gal, and apparently the people I've spoken with saying that this was the first time in memory that there was a woman on a team, and not to say nothing of a team that was in the finals. And I guess there have been some women on teams, but to make it to the finals, and this is Elizabeth Whitener, whom I don't think I've met. I don't know her, but she's been sailing regularly with Taylor in other classes, other events, I believe, and she is from Charleston here in the USA. Do you know her, and was this a minor achievement, a major deal? What's this all about?
Well, I think it's great. I met her last week, and it's great to see. I think it's one of the big advantages of the way that we have the rule written is it's based around 6. Bluntly, it's an open class, but it's based around 6 men at 87.5 kilograms. But you're allowed to take 7. So as long as you weigh in the same as whatever 6 times 87.5 is, let me remember, 537.5. So you can take 7, and that certainly increases the opportunity for some diversity. You still need some big, strong guys on board. I've already mentioned Matt Cassidy, but I think it's quite interesting, the 6v7 debate as well, and what's better. I think you definitely benefit from having that extra hand at the bottom gate, especially for the port roundings. But I think the advantage of having 6 is perhaps your team's a bit stronger. I think in the tacking with the Genoa, perhaps a bit more strength. It also, I guess, cancels that out.
Lots of comments, and we're never going to get to all these. And Julia likes to remind us.
Yes, don't forget to go back and read the comments. You will have not forgotten lots of them, and they're always really interesting.
The life of the wife of a rock star. Pindar is saying that, and they're remembering, Andrew's saying it was Peter Holmberg who first introduced me to Ian way back in St. Moritz, 2006, I think. And then Denise is remembering that it was at Badrut Palace. Is that a place?
It's a hotel.
A hotel?
It's like a palace, though. Yeah, lovely hotel.
Scott Dixon has participated in a lot of these. Denise is reminding us. Yeah, Scotty, we saw Scotty on the tube. They did a little PIP, picture-in-picture with him from down in New Zealand, where he's helping to look after his terrific father. And there's lots of other people saying, yeah, a Masters event would be terrific, and on. But we go back to the pictures. Bravo Zulu to Elizabeth Whitener and Taylor and co. Nice to see a woman in the finals. And as I said, Ian, apparently no one could remember when there had been a woman in the finals. And I hope Congressional Cup will go back and look at the records.
Yeah, we Taylor sailed with Sally Barco a few years ago. I think we raced them in the semi-finals, but I don't recall a woman in the finals previously.
Cool stuff. Another photo, we just have you on the stage, and we'll ask you at this point, 20 grand, which is, it's a nice amount of money. It's not a princely sum, but as some of these other events, Congressional Cup used to never have a cash prize. And now Congressional Cup has a cash prize, and it's not only the oldest event, but it's thanks in large part to all the volunteers. It's a reasonably inexpensive regatta for them to run. So the sponsorship that they do get, that they do have, they can start to push toward cash prizes. Is that a good thing for the event?
Well, yeah, absolutely. It's necessary for us to be able to get there. Bluntly speaking, we are. It's a job for us as well. And whilst I think all my crew could have been earning more this week doing something else, they can't do it for nothing, or if it costs them. And so for sure the prize money is important, and the sponsorship from Gladstone's Long Beach is important for us. And it's also important to remember that the members are the sponsors as well. The members pay money towards the event, Long Beach Yacht Club. They also have their Club 100 who put in an extra amount, and it's really thanks to them that the event's still going so strong.
I really think that lots of volunteers add both to the sport and to the participants and to the club experience.
For sure. And it's we're gonna wrap with a couple of the other comments, but it's and 84 Olympics was, and leading up to the 84 Olympics and Congressional Cup before that in the early 80s, and I learned quickly that the volunteer spirit, particularly in Southern California, well, other parts of the UK's got some pretty good volunteer spirit in some other countries, but as Denise Balzac is saying, they house every team, they pick you up at the airport, they run you around, they take you to the drinks, they collect you down on 2nd Street at the bars late at night if you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And it's just a terrific club, and that's why I think the 2028 Olympics will be, again, as the 84 Olympics were in Long Beach, with literally thousands of volunteers.
Yes.
Not only, for the other sports, but for sailing in particular.
Yes.
I've got one more piece here, Ian. We have a nice bit of audio from James Pleasance, who's a Fozy, who's been on the show any number of times. I talked with him this morning, and he contributed this.
So the photo was me presenting Lisa Meyer with a small trophy from the World Match Racing Tour as a token of our appreciation of the Congressional Cup and Long Beach Yacht Club as an official World Championship stage of the World Match Racing Tour. Lisa Meyer is a terrific woman. She was chair of the Congressional Cup this year and just did a fabulous job at the event the whole week, and was really great fun to be working with, and you know, her whole team. You'll see also on my blazer there, I have a Long Beach Yacht Club badge, which the Commodore John Trigliato gave me just before I went on stage, as they very kindly made me an honorary member of the club this year. So I'm very touched about that. So thank you to everyone at the club that might be listening to the show this evening. But yes, that was the picture. It was a terrific event, and we're looking forward to heading back next year. And you know, many congratulations to Ian and his team, and a very happy birthday to him as well.
Okay, that's Congressional Cup Chair Lisa Meyer there on the left, and our longtime friend, World Match Racing Tour Executive Director and Fozy.
Yes.
James Pleasance, with whom I spoke, and that was his bit of audio. Ian, what about the tour? What about James and the terrific job he does?
I was going to say that Facebook's a wonderful thing, but it just means everybody knows when your birthday is now, doesn't it? No, sure. I mean, I first met James when he was working for Scott McLeod on the tour, probably back around 2004, 2005, or even maybe before that. And you know, it's had a couple of tough years with the COVID, but we hope it can get back on track. I think it's a really important part of the sport. It's a really good opportunity for young sailors coming through, particularly the ones who are not suited to the Olympic classes, maybe in the Olympic classes, to really advance their skills and work towards a professional career. And I think you look at the sailors that have taken that route. So many, especially of the crews, but also the helms and skippers in the America's Cup have come through that route. And I think the sport desperately needs it to be strong to keep that route open.
I think we all agree with that.
Absolutely. Yeah, there are several people giving bravos to
Bravo Zulus.
Bravo Zulus.
Sangmeister said up above, I won't put that comment on because it's way up the list now, but he said the best part of the Congressional Cup is the friendships made over the years. Ian and his team have been our house guests, apropos what Denise was saying, have been our house guests for many years and are now part of our extended family. Ian and the team did the heavy lifting. Glad we could help in a small way. And he's also saying that the event was bigger and better with Ian's participation and victory. Our good friend John Sangmeister, and well said, I'm sure. I just have one other thing. If you're just joining us, we're about to wrap up this segment with Ian, who's is with us from Leamington, live via Skype from his home in Leamington. Did you move to Leamington from London, or have you always lived in Leamington?
Well, I moved here through Southampton and Handball. I've been here for 11 years now.
Okay, because I guess I've known you 20 years on and off, and I remember you were living at some point in London. Not that makes a lot of difference, but
when I used to be a lawyer, I lived in London, but it's a bit expensive when I became a sailor.
Well, I did prepare two lower thirds, one saying Leamington and one saying London, and then I checked this with Sangmeister this morning, and he told me you were in Leamington now. So just to wrap this up, and we really appreciate your coming on, because it is an event close to our hearts, as it is to a whole lot of people in the world of sailing, not just match racing. This is from Magnus Wheatley, another Fozy who's been on the show any number of times. He wrote a couple days ago, building narrative in sailing is made much easier when the very best provide the bylines. And in winning his 5th Crimson Blazer, Ian Williams just ensured that next year's, the 2023 Congressional Cup, will be a corker. 5 wins apiece between Ian and Taylor Canfield sets up a beauty next year. Who will make history with a 6th? And maybe neither of them.
I know.
It's generational stuff. We may never see this being done again. And then he said, as British wins go, this is right up there and leaves me thinking why on earth Williams isn't being snapped up by the America's Cup or Sail GP. What he showed us was utter brilliance and such a cool head under pressure. Rarely do we see such fine execution, and I put this up amongst any of our gold medalists in the Olympics over the past 30 years. Outstanding. These are just excerpts from his post of a couple days ago. And finally, he said, and I've said it before, but it's well worth saying again, Long Beach Yacht Club were the perfect hosts for this pitch-perfect stadium-style regatta. They just do it so well, and my goodness, that club looks like a bucket list must-visit, an absolute jewel of world yachting with a membership that can be rightly proud of how brilliantly they executed this, in fact, almost every Congressional Cup in memory. The World Match Racing Tour has gold dust with this, and its place as one of the true blue riband, as you say in the UK, blue riband events of world sailing is unquestioned. Congratulations to all involved. Outstanding. Magnus.
Well said as usual.
Well said as usual. Ian, over to you for any final comments.
Oh, just thanks for having me on. Like I say, I certainly that last paragraph by Magnus there, it's a fabulous event, the Congressional Cup. I urge anybody, if you ever get the chance to do it, jump at it, because it's an experience that you won't regret taking on. And thanks to all the volunteers at the club, and really looking forward to going back next year and trying to defend the title.
May I ask you one more question?
Of course.
Pindar knows the answer, but Gordon Smith in Denmark is asking, is someone going to remind us how many times Ian has won the Match Racing World Championship?
Well, 6 times. 6 times.
Yeah, Pindar has answered that, and fabulous to have you on. It's been a long time coming, and we're really delighted to have you, and hope to see you again soon. Have a very happy rest of your birthday.
And a nap.
Well, exactly. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Julia. Thanks for having me on. I've enjoyed it.
Likewise. Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Julia, we're really lucky to have people like that in our sport.
You
Our
bet.
sport is so cool. These clubs like Long Beach and the dozens of others, the hundreds of others, whether large and small. I mean, some of these clubs Emmett has been showing us in the UK. My little club in Michigan is just, a tiny speck in the whole history and tradition of the sport, but it's still a speck and nice people, as is, of course, Ian Williams. Well done, Ian. Denise Balzac is saying, bravo, Ian. Monica Diaz is saying, modest, cool guy. Alistair Murray, our COVID-inflicted foesy down in
Hope
Melbourne.
you're feeling better.
Melbourne, Gordon Smith, everybody saying fantastic stuff. And well done to our guest today, Ian Williams, who was live via Skype from Leamington in the UK down on the South Coast. We'll now transition over to the Gov Cup in this fabulous photo. I love this photo. The 55th Governor's Cup, it was announced yesterday. They have announced the 2022 invitees. It's set for the 25th through the 30th of July, and the Commonwealth countries are returning because after COVID, it was tough for Australia and New Zealand not to get out of the country, but to get home. But that's all solved now, and this field that has been announced is really terrific. The press release from yesterday, I'll just excerpt a couple paragraphs. The skippers invited to the 55th Governor's Cup International, I should add the word prestigious, International Youth Match Racing Championship this week. Make this event more like a traditional pre-COVID Gov Cup lineup after the Cup's cancellation in 2020 and last year's event, which featured a basically U.S. versus Europe lineup. The 2020 and 2021 travel restrictions on those teams from the British Commonwealth have been lifted, and the host Balboa Yacht Club looks forward to having them back. Quote, we are excited to have the Commonwealth teams back, and the Governor's Cup Committee and Balboa Yacht Club members can hardly wait until July, said Christine Gribben, Gov Cup chair. And she is the chairman she's been the chairman. I think this is her 7th year.
I know.
And the World Championships,
yes.
when we've hosted those a couple times.
She swears she's never going to do it again, but she does such a good job that everybody says, you got to do it.
Well, right. You remember the day she and her husband and her then Squeeze, I think they were about to get married, had flown. They have a plane. They fly. They're both, and they flew up here for a cocktail with us.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily with us. We found them at the bar at St. Francis Yacht Club. But she is a terrific chair of any regatta. Quote, second a little bit of this quote, "It is the club's centennial year, the 100th year, and the Cup has been part of more than 1/2 of our history. So we are perhaps even more excited to again host the world's best young match racers." Now, this photo I mentioned is one of my favorites of all time. Of course, it's a Fosey. And these are the 2021 Gov Cup champs. From left to right, Scott Mays there on the bow. And the middle, Max Brennan. And then, of course, with his head up high, looking uphill, is our Fosey Jeffrey Peterson, who didn't quite make it to Congressional Cup, but he was in the FICA Cup and finished in the middle of that fleet. But he won last year, the Gov Cup. He will be back. Thanks, Tom Walker, for that fabulous photo. And he also took this one. And by the way, I'll go back. I called Tom this morning, or texted him, I guess, and said, I really need a high-res version. We had a lower-res version of this in the press release. Mm-hmm. And I said, we really want the high-res photo. And I'm gonna frame this. Yeah. We have so many great photographers in our sport, and we're talking about Danielle Forster and all the others. And we're going to feature some more because that segment with Danielle was so popular, right?
Absolutely.
There's America's Cup photos in the segment, the first part one, where he was Tom Walker down in Newport Beach. I'll show those names again. Thank you, sir, for that photo and sending me the high-res version thereof. Now, the local favorites going into this year's events will once again be super young. He's 17, 16, 17, whatever he is. Morgan Pinckney, 18 maybe by now, from the Newport Harbor Yacht Club. He was in the event last year, did surprisingly well. And last year's winner, Jeffrey Peterson and co. This is a photo, obviously, from last year. This year's invitees, and I believe they've all accepted, Jack, in alphabetical order, Jack Egan, who's from down in San Diego, Porter Cavalier, who I think's from Annapolis, Robbie King from the UK, Robbie McCutcheon from NZ, Jeffrey, we mentioned, Morgan, we mentioned. Will Sargent is an Aussie, and one of the Aussies is in fact, there's 3 Aussies. Will Sargent, Jordan Stevenson's from New Zealand, Cole Tapper, also from Australia, and his brother, who sailed in the Gov Cup, is crewing for him, I think, this year. Marcello Torre, also from Australia, is from Perth. He's from Western Australia. Mm-hmm. And my personal favorite, I like all these kids and their teams, but remember Marius Vesterland from Sweden, who we had on the show last year. Mm-hmm. And we'll be doing that again. We'll be doing the road to the Gov Cup. Yeah. Andy Rose and I will be interviewing all of these teams, all 12 teams, and run them as brief segments during Tom Eman Live between now and the end of July, when this event
it's wonderful
takes place.
But to get to know them, and by the time the races start, you're hooked.
Well, especially, you get to know some of the personalities, not just pictures of them out racing on the Gov Cup 22s. Okay, that's a nice announcement. We're going to look forward to that. We do like match racing on this show. We also like this segment called This Day in History. Do you know, Julia, what happened on this day in history? And I know everybody is checking, right? They're all checking. Now, what happened? Maybe they've already done the research. So here's the year. It's recent. This is not one of those things back in the 5th century. 1986. Do you know what happened? And Gordon Smith and tapers were discovered. Commodore Glidewell, Ken Glidewell, nice to see you on. The Rose Cup is being held because we saw on that list that I'm just going back here for a sec. The 12th entry is the winner of the Rose Cup, which is the U.S. National Youth Match Racing Championship. That's being held at the end of June, Commodore, at the Long Beach Yacht Club. And we will be televised. Gov Cup TV, Andy, myself, Chris Bretschker, and co. Will be going to Long Beach Yacht Club and televising that event, the Rose Cup, this year at Long Beach Yacht Club. Nuclear issues on the Ukraine. Hamish Ross. Stingray says Chernobyl. David James says Chernobyl, and you, of course, are all right without even this clue. Now, that's from that that's from that nearby town that was just obviously decimated, that was wiped out by not only the explosion, but by all the fallout. An AC boat was built, Baton Rouge in Charleston. By the way, Baton Rouge had the lady's name who was sailing on Taylor's boat, and apparently her married name now is Lynch.
Oh.
So thank you, Baton Rouge, Baton Kenyon. There's the rest of the clues. That is reactor number 4 at Chernobyl, which is the one that, due to both a design flaw, I'm not going to read all this from Wikipedia, but I did in doing the research.
Yeah.
I'm not laughing about this. I'm laughing about Stingray's comments. All good boats have tapered ends. Shitty British hands. Enough of that. This was a tragedy. Obviously, it spread fallout, nuclear radiation throughout Europe and beyond. Chernobyl was the worst nuclear accident in the history of the world on April 26, 1986. God, that seems like it was more recent than that. I guess how time flies, Julia. The number 4 reactor in the nuclear plant blew up, sending radiation spewing across Europe as far north as Sweden. In the direct path of the immediate fallout was that town of Pripyat that I was showing in that other photo. In the hours after the disaster, dozens of people began to fall ill, but the town was not immediately evacuated by Soviet authorities. This, of course, is in modern-day Ukraine, but this is when it was Russia, or USSR, the Soviet Union. This happened a day later. That is the evacuation. Residents were told only to bring essentials and that they would return in 3 days.
Oh.
Details of the disaster were sketchy at the time. The Soviet Union did not admit an incident until 2 days later, and even then the announcement was downplayed in state media and beyond. Since '86, a zone of exclusion has been set up around Chernobyl. The surrounding area will not be safe for at least another 20,000 years. Now they have built, and it was pretty amazing. I was, again, I'm not going to show all this, but this is that new safe confinement or containment structure. They call it confinement structure. And it was built on railroad tracks, and it was built away from it, and then they rolled it in on the railroad tracks over the top of the Crutonic reactor 4. And this is fairly recent. This was in 2017, because the old confinement structure was, well, Crutonic.
But they were building shelters right next to this.
Well, you're talking about recently.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Hey, look at this. Look at this.
Whoops.
The New York Times from a couple of weeks ago. Russian blunders in Chernobyl. They came and did whatever they wanted. Tank treads ripped up the toxic soil. Bulldozers carved trenches and bunkers. And soldiers spent a month camped in and dug into a radioactive forest. See, you're ahead of me as usual, Julia. That's okay. And, did they not know? Did they not tell the people what?
I was just astounded.
I'm still worried that with this war could be a lot of bad things, but some accident's going to happen. Somebody's going to bomb one of those other nuclear plants. They have other nuclear power plants.
Yeah.
Or by mistake or otherwise. And that's, God forbid. So go ahead.
Somebody suggested that they distribute pictures of the old one in great so reminds everybody not to do that.
Well, you would think the Russian army would know not to do that and would tell their people, hey, stay away from this place. But of course there was a battle over the control of it.
Yes.
You don't know what media to believe and what media not to. But regardless, in 1986, on this day, world's worst nuclear disaster, the 4th reactor blew up at Chernobyl, yada, yada. God, it was fun to have Ian on here.
It was.
Hey, you're going to like this next segment, Julia, because there is nothing, absolutely nothing to report. Sound effects only.
Crickets.
We're not going to say anything about the America's Cup. We're going to go to Chernobyl, where the 5-legged tapers originated. My beloved mother, Janice Davis, is saying that one of my brother's wives, not one of my brothers and one of his wives, my brother's wife, Yenna, was in Germany when that blew up. Yeah, indeed. Mm. Maybe the Russians should have to keep that. Look at all those lovely apartment buildings, Steve Groomer is saying. I believe Studio 54 opened on this date, 1977. Commodore Glidewell. Hamish Ross, this is interesting. Hey, I don't see that comment. Yeah, I was camping out in Scotland early in the season when the radioactive cloud came over. Explains a lot, perhaps. Hamish. It was you, though. It wasn't Grant Dalton that was camping out there, Hamish. Okay, nothing going on in the Cup. That's your update for the AC-37 Cup date.
Yeah.
Not nuclear fallout, but crickets. Just I like that, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Nice sound effects.
Like that, I like.
I use those sparingly because otherwise everyone would not only think I'm a crouton, but they would
know it.
they would know it. Exactly right. Okay, we do have some cool news though from Sail GP. I love what they're doing with this program. And here's a video. I'm just going to run the video. We'll talk about it afterwards. It's a little longish, 4 minutes, but it's worth every second.
I'm from a tiny little island in the middle of the Atlantic called Bermuda. I'm really far from home. My dad, he's always been a big fisherman, so that's how I got my love for the water. And I started sailing at the age of about 11. It was just a sense of freedom.
بديت رياضة الشراع من حوالي 10 سنوات تقريبا. يعني وانا صغير ابوي يعني تقريبا ما تقول عائلتي كلها تميل للبحر. قمت شوي شوي احب الهواء ويعني احب ان انزل في اي حالة من الحالات في البحر.
Sail GP Inspire program is to get young people involved in our sport.
In connection with the boat, in connection with nature, and it's just something that's always captivated me.
Just not the sailors that we want to get involved. It's getting young people in our host venues access to this amazing sport. Hamza has come over to San Francisco as part of the Mubadala Excellence Program, where they identify young talent from the Middle East who are on the pathway in different sporting facets.
في مثلا بطولات أنا كنت إن أحلم إن أوصلها مثلا رياضة الشراع لسيل جي بي. الحمد لله مبادرة ما قصرت معاي في تحقيق حلمي.
The reason he's here and seeing the different departments operating within Sail GP, trying to identify an area of passion or an area that he wants to pursue in the future.
Welcome to the team.
The Mubadala Excellence Program focuses on getting young talent such as Hamza involved in sport.
هي وصلت كلاعب أفضل لاعب خليج، وصلت للعربية الحمد لله، وصلت للتوب 10 أفضل لاعبين 10 في آسيا.
Sail GP Inspire program partners really well with that. So we've got him here meeting all these rock stars in the sport of sailing.
Inspire is just an opportunity for you to get engulfed with all the aspects of Sail GP.
فطلعت على سيل جي بي يعني تحمست إني أروح في أقرب وقت يعني.
Nice to meet you, Trey Maxwell.
You guys excited?
Yeah.
You're going to be behind the scenes with the best sailors in the world.
Sail GP, something that I've always wanted to be a part of because ultimately I want to be just like those guys and they expect absolute perfection here. I did 2 events with the Inspire program.
Trey came with an incredible passion and determination.
Now I work here at Sail GP full time.
For us, he's become a valuable team member of the chase boat world, really taking on new responsibilities and showing an intuition to how these boats work on the water.
Make sure that the power boats are in tip-top shape and we assist the F-50s. The USA team capsized. We had to rush over there, so it gave me a little taste of what I'm actually going to be doing on race days.
And that was the first time you see an F-50 on its side?
Oh yeah, I was like, no way.
Doing a good job, keep it up.
Thank you, bro.
اليوم حضرت مع الفريق النيوزيلندي، بديت معاهم من الصبح. بداية اليوم كان نفس meetings عن بداية اليوم.
Today we've got Hamza involved with the team. Just being around a team like this and in a high performance environment, seeing how the team all comes together is really good. He's already been talking to us about trying to learn some things for him to be able to do this in the future.
الحمد لله عقب نزلنا البحر شفت كيف مدرب بيتواصل مع الفريق وشفت الفريق كيف يتعامل مع المدرب. كان شيء جيد اني انا اجلس مع الفريق واشوف الاحترافيه اللي وصلوا فيها.
Safety 2 is finishing up for today. Oh man, it's gonna be crazy on race day.
كل التحضيرات خلال هذا الأسبوع خلتني ما أقدر أنتظر اليوم هذا عشان أطالع النتيجة والتعب.
Everyone's trying to make sure that they can perform in the roles and make no mistakes at all.
مثلا عندك لاعبين من أنحاء العالم اللي موجودين كلهم في هذه البطولة. دائما احنا نحاول ناخذ من كل لاعب.
Everyone in SailGP, they're the best in the marine industry. It's just going to be a blast. Just suck it in, have some fun.
All 8 teams off and sailing in the San Francisco Bay.
هذا شيء حلو انك تحتك مع لاعبين اولمبيين مثل اللاعب الاسترالي، لاعب بريطاني، لاعيبة نيوزيلندا.
San Francisco rush hour on that shore side.
لازم تتعب تصبر عشان توصل لهذا الكلام.
It's full on. It's a lot of work, but it's really rewarding.
Almost clips them from behind. It is Australia's SailGP that wins it all in 2022.
We've seen Hamza working with the New Zealand team, rubbing shoulders with the likes of Pete Burling and Blair Tuke, and really getting to grips with what it takes to operate a professional sports team.
قضيت هالاسبوع رائع في مشاهدة السباق في البحر، وهذا عطاني حماس وقوة لأكون لاعب شراع محترف في المستقبل.
Yeah, I'm just super thankful for this experience. Inspire has been super instrumental with the way that I got into SailGP. Without Inspire, I would not be here today.
Okay, well, bravo Zulu to SailGP, and we're going to get Tom Herbert Evans on here sooner or later. We've gone back and forth. He's busy, we're busy, but we're going to get him on. And I think, Julia, we should get that kid from Bermuda on.
Yes.
And see if we can get him on via Skype, and maybe as a Tom. I think Tom's going to come on in the week before the first SailGP coming up here when it's in Bermuda. That's the next event, right?
Yeah.
And we'll see if we get Tom on, and maybe he can bring that same fellow on from Bermuda, and we'll do some kind of something or another, because he's obviously a terrific spokesperson for the sport. Your comments are fabulous as usual. Ed Worley, nice video. Ted Ryman, nice video. Alistair Murray, that will change his life. Couldn't agree more.
No question.
Stingray saying progressive move by Mubadala. I think I finally got that right. It's unusual to see Middle Eastern gender benders. What's that mean, Stingray?
Gender benders?
I don't think he means gender benders.
Yeah.
The Inspire program is inspiring. I love, okay, Pedro Foiling Sailor. I love helping out. Yes, he did help out, he and Jody both, in giving back and helping with the kids on Sydney Harbor. Bravo Zulu to you, Peter Stevenson. Gordon Smith, I like it. Chris Bulger, great images. We need to open the door wider to grow the sport. Absolutely. Monica Diaz, inspirational. And on and on. Now, there's a comment way up there. Did you see
Stingray.
that? Stingray's comment.
Yeah.
Did you read that?
Yes. One hears that Singsby is signed with American Magic.
Well, how long have we been saying that on here? It was only a matter of time it was going to happen. So once again, one of our one hears, and now Stingray's one hears has come true.
Yes.
Our room looks yellow, Julia. I have to balance that camera better. But maybe it's your lamp, huh?
Could be.
Your Himalayan salt lamp.
Which can do without that.
Julia's signal to tell her whether or not the mics are on or off. That's my foot switch. It's working well. Congratulations, Larry Russell, Tom Herbert Evans, everybody else involved with SailGP.
Yes.
Bravo Zulu, which brings us to ... Oh, that's irritating, but it's irritating in a fun way. Our Corrector Crutonic segment with, not with Jody Baby Shark Shields, but thanks to him. And as you all know, in the last couple days, it was rumored, now it's come true. And this is we dedicate this to Ted Ryman. The racist Twitter board declares they would rather go bankrupt than be owned by an African American. This is before he actually Elon Musk, got control of the company. That's from the BabylonB.com.
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious. There's been so much about this left, right, and center. And I can only think that this move is the best thing
Oh, yes, I hope so.
for what we do on here,
Yes.
which is to take comments in a respectful way, to talk here in a respectful way, no name calling, no personal attacks, no coarse language unless Julia approves it. And then she'll shake her finger at us. But bravo Zulu to Elon Musk. I think this is a tremendous day for free speech. Or, and I put it to all of you, is this a good thing for freedom, for free speech, or not? Is this correct or croutonic? And to all the people, Julia, that said, well, you know, we got a rightist. He's not a rightist. He's a libertarian.
Yeah.
A rightist, and we got to get him sailing, by the way.
Yes.
But a right winger, they say, and he's not. But let's assume he is for a moment. Who owns the Washington Post? Who owns the New York Times? Who owns the Atlantic Magazine? Who owns, you know, Dash? All these other publications, the Guardian in the UK, we can think of that are left, right, and center. I don't know. What do you all think? Is it correct or croutonic? Gordon Smith says, I don't see it making any difference. Andrew McIrvin, hello, doctor. Twitter is just full of angry nutters. Best avoided. I completely agree with that, Julia. Now, we are live streaming the show on Twitter. We get a handful of views because we co-stream it now to Facebook, my personal page, the Sailing Illustrated Facebook page, YouTube, but also to my TFE, at TFE, my 3-letter Twitter handle, because I've been on Twitter for so long.
I never watch it, but I should.
Greg Phillips down in Oz on the Gold Coast is saying this is great news. Baton Rouge saying it's correct. João Alexander in Portugal saying well done. Elon will make himself the only tweeter, Stingray is saying, and Monica Diaz taking a more cautious approach. We shall see. We will see. Paul Homchick, very, very correct. I love Andrew McIrvin's comment. I couldn't agree more. I don't go on there. Some people, when they wake up, okay, maybe they have their coffee, maybe not. Before they even get out of bed, the first thing to do is look at their Twitter feed to see what all this stuff is. I don't. I look at my texts.
Yeah.
And I look then at Facebook Messenger because so many of our Fozy and others
I do that.
send us messages. So I don't know. I think Gordon Smith may be right. It's not going to make any difference. But I do think ultimately what maybe Gordon will make a big difference, and I hope it is correct. I think he is going to clean up the service, the platform. I'm not talking about free speech and algorithms, all that. I think he's going to make it profitable, more profitable, and it'll make it better for people who do want it.
And make it acceptable to have more than one opinion.
Well, that's for sure. Ted Ryman says, he's very correct. He likes his fellow South African. Based on my friends, the little kids, Baby Shark is over. Time to move on. Steve Kruger, okay. We will do that. If somebody will send us a new correct or croutonic theme song, we will happily
with
move.
Pleasure.
We'll happily move on from that because it is croutonic. Right, Julia?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That brings us to the D block. We're just about done. We're an hour and 33 minutes in, and I have only one of these, courtesy, I think, of Peter Taylor. Whiskey, Tango, Foxtrot. Apropos another issue, we got COVID, we got the war, we got Twitter. Now we've got, well, at least in this country, and I'm sure in all of you, we've got raging inflation. While you were deciding, we raised our prices. I think Peter Taylor, he's been sending the jokes every show, and I didn't put a lower third in for that. But thank you, Peter. I think that was funny. That gets us to the finish line. Now, I teased you at the top of the show. We're going to play you a 1-minute video about our guests and our topic on Friday's show. And that, of course, is the U25 Para Sailing World Championship, which was publicly announced this morning by World Sailing. Now, we've been telling you for a week plus that it was coming. We had a reliable one here, and delighted now that contract has been signed, and they've made this announcement via video from World Sailing this morning. Hashtag back the bid. Let's get that going. Let's keep it going. Nice initiative by World Sailing and by RS Sailing and their yacht. And we will have the RS Venture Connect. We'll feature that boat, that yacht here on the show on Friday when we'll have as our guest, among others, we're not sure the whole lineup, but Dan Jaspers, who's been helping to coordinate this. He's the international affairs or something for RS Sailing. He's a Brit living in Hamburg, Germany, and he will for sure be with us on Friday's show at the usual time here on Tom Ehman Live. Julia, your witness.
Yes. Please like, follow, and share. People watch those things.
Indeed. And not only that, but of course, we appreciate very much your support via Patreon, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated to help us keep the bills paid here at the Beach Street Yacht Club and in Studio B. We, again, have very, very many contributors of video, audio, and images to this show, especially to this show, all those images that came through from Long Beach.
Yes.
And we Julie, we got to thank, for sure, we got to thank our good friend, Ian Williams, who signed off. Ian was with us today live via Skype from his home in Leamington. Anything else? Your final?
He was wonderful. People assume I've known him or know about him, but I haven't, and he's wonderful.
He sailed here. I remember him sailing here at St. Francis Yacht Club in the Brute Cup or the Moet Cup or one of whatever those cups were back in the day, which is when I think we first met, he and I. But great guy, obviously. He's a lot of fun, don't you think?
Yes.
Terrific, terrific guy. Humble, modest, and obviously a hell of a good sailor. Don Lunevos saying, thank you, Ian. Good show. A qualifying banjo playing competition. No, thank you. Thanks, Chris Bulger. Thanks, all of you. Appreciate it very much. We'll listen to that annoying music that John Emmett has suggested. Ed Worley asking, there's one last good question. Could this boat be in the Olympics?
Which boat?
This RS Venture.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting question. Okay, thanks, everybody. Hope to see you on Friday. Hope you have a great rest of your week. In the meantime, if you can, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.